So before we begin shading, just giving you a look at the tools you're going to need. So remember my mechanical pencil, that's good for drawing, but not for shading. So I've got my shading pencil, I've sharpened it, so I've got a lot of side area to shade with. You are absolutely going to need an eraser because I'm going to teach you how to shade using erasers as well as pencils. Also, you're gonna, those of you that got a smudgy, you need that. If not, those of you that made your own smudgies, get those ready to go. And we all need a Kleenex. Kleenex, toilet paper, maybe even paper towel. You're going to need that for this lesson. Okay, so we know that this is a cylinder, and we know that for cylinders, we go dark to light, back to dark. So obviously this is a very light thing. The shadows don't get too dark on here. So when we talked about a value scale before, I would say go all the way to dark. For today, we're just gonna start with a medium gray, and we're just gonna go slowly dark from the sides and light to the middle. So I'm gonna turn the page. Let's just start with this little area up here a bit. So we shade in the direction of the object. You can see that it's going straight up and down on this part. So once again, you're gonna take the side of your pencil, and again, we don't wanna go too dark out here. We're just gonna kind of start with a medium and go a little bit lighter in the middle. We always have to go a little bit from darker to light to show people that it's rounded. And now I'm gonna show you how to do this by smudging. So once again, the ultimate way to draw, to be like top of the mountain artist, is never to smudge and to be able to control your pencil so perfectly that you can blend and make everything smooth. But in reality, that can be pretty difficult. Okay, so first of all, never use your finger, ever. Never, ever, ever use your finger to smudge, because you've got oil on your fingers. We all have oil on our fingers, as you know, because your phone screen gets covered in fingerprints all day. Okay, so you take because this is a smaller area, I'm going to use the smudgy, and I'm going to start going over the area and that I just shaded, and if you see, you can see that it's starting to blend from the dark to the light. So by going up and down, it's staying from dark to light, but it's filling in all the white spots, and I'm getting a nice solid shading. I'm gonna do the same on this side. So you still have to take the time to make sure that your shading with your pencil is pretty smooth. And you can see I accidentally got a little bit darker here in the middle, so I'm just gonna go ahead now and erase that out. Like I said, I always find the light ones harder to do than the darker ones. And even in the middle, I'm not even shading, I'm just using the smudgy to actually shade for me to get my lighter values. What happens is after a while, the senior kids, they all have like 10 smudgies. They have darker ones ready to go. They have light ones ready to go. And I'm just gonna kind of go back. Now, one of the things we're gonna watch a lot more this time is these outlines. I do not want any dark lines around your glass. So that's why you've got to start off by drawing light. If not, you've got to kind of erase those lines out. And we just want to make sure that we don't have a dark line on the side. Okay, so you can see already this is starting to look a bit rounded. And we're going to worry about the highlights when we're done. So now we can go ahead and shade the whole thing. The only difference is we can't completely go straight up and down. So the lines in the middle go straight up and down, but around here, we need to curve our shading to match the bottle. So that's one of the tricks that's going to help this look round, is when we're here in the middle, we can go straight up and down, but over here, I'm going to go like this, up like this, and then over like that to shade. Okay, so once again, I'm going to take my pencil And I'm gonna go a little bit darker on the sides. And I'm gonna curve back in when I get up to this part. So again, learning to control your pencil to be able to go as light or as dark as you want is one of the skills that you may need practicing with, but this learning to blend things is going to make your life a lot easier for when we're doing things that are smooth. So again, I'm just doing a little bit dark, just a little bit at the edge, kind of going medium. You notice I'm bending the shading a bit at the bottom, going straight up and down in the middle, and I'm barely letting my pencil touch the paper for this part here in the middle. All right, and as you saw when I did the top part, I kind of just used the smudgy to get the shading in the middle, so I'm probably gonna stop right there. And then I'm gonna turn the page over and do the same thing over here. So once again, starting at the outer edge, that's where my little bit of darker values are. And I'm bending my shading as I get down to the bottom. And go straight up and down. Again, do not rush this part. You know, sometimes I shade a little bit faster than I should, but you want to make sure that you're doing this nice and slowly so that the smoother your texture is at this stage, the better it's going to look, because we're talking about glass here. It's the smoothest of everything. Okay, and I'm just going to go back and get a little bit darker values at the side because it's a cylinder. Okay, so at this point, because this is such a large area, I mean, a smudgy will work, but it's a little bit too small for what we want to do, which is why a Kleenex is going to work a lot better. So once I said you never want to use your finger, once that oil gets on the paper, there's nothing you can do about it. So by wrapping your finger in Kleenex, little ghost, now I can do the same thing, and I can go up and down, get my edges, and it's going to start to blend from the dark to the light, and it's getting rid of that rough surface. So when we talked about textures, remember we said, how do you tell when something's smooth and when something's rough? Well, you can probably see the difference right now. And if I zoom right up, this side still looks rough because it's going dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. And this side isn't, because this side is slowly changing from the darker to the lighter. So for many of you, learning to blend is going to be a great tool. I'm just going to keep this on close up for a minute so you can see what I'm doing. So once again, I like to just wrap my finger in the Kleenex. I've got lots of control with no oil, and I'm going to go right to that edge. Now, because I did a pretty good job shading to begin with, I can go up and down and keep my dark to light. If it's really rough and if you've got stripes, the only way to get rid of it is for you to blend sideways to help smooth out your stuff. Now, when you go sideways, you lose that dark to light thing and you have to go back and shade it a bit more. So one of the skills to practice is to try to get kind of smooth to begin with. Okay, let me go back out a little bit for you. So you can see it already looks pretty good as a jar. I'm just gonna go down here in the bottom and just kind of take my Kleenex and curve a little bit here at the bottom. That looks good. All right. And so once again, check your edges. Am I going a little bit darker at the side? And I don't want any stripes out there. It's not as important with glass, you'll see in a minute, but we're nice and smooth. Should be a lot easier. Okay, so the last thing we have to do is this part of it. So same thing. There is, if you have this curve, you can see that now we're gonna start curving the other way. So there is actually, the other line is right in there. And if you turn your drawing, it is right, so remember how wide this is? So there is just that little bit of a line right here in the middle. Right there. It was a little confusing to draw at the beginning, so I usually kind of wait and just put it in there right now. Okay, so same thing. We are going to go a little bit darker on our sides, lighter in the middle. We're going to go up and down. Just a little bit. And because this is a smaller area, I can go back and use the smudgy, and I'm going to change my angle a little bit in the corner just to help me get in that corner. It's a little too hard for me to go up and down at that point, so I'm just gonna go sideways out here, and then I'll just kind of go up and down in the middle. Yeah, we're trying to not to have any lines, so even up here, we're trying not to have an outline. That's an outline right there. Right. So if your line is still there from the beginning, you just kind of want to make sure you don't have any lines. I still have an outline right there. So one of the ways to get rid of an outline is just to go back and smudge next to it a bit. And then what I'm doing is I'm softening that line and I'm coming this way. So I'm softening it, and by coming in, the outline disappears. Same thing, I'm just gonna be, this is the really picky stuff, but those are outlines right there. So if I kind of just blend them a little bit, I'll get rid of them. And you just wanna make sure you don't have a big dark line going around your drawing, because we're doing all these things to make our drawings look three-dimensional and realistic. And what we don't want to do is have a big outline, because it just flattens it completely.